even with this first fight, man, I thought this first fight was destined to with Hermansson and Shahbazyan. I thought it was a pretty solid bet that this one wasn't going to go the distance, but it did. What'd you think of this one?
Hey, man, I thought it was a pretty good fight. I needed this one so bad, Al, because guess what? Your boy had a bet on Jack Hermansson, and my goodness, he comes up big. Jack Hermansson wins the unanimous decision. So this is a fight that, Al, first off, I just got to say, I'm with you, man. I actually thought we were probably going to see a finish in this fight regardless of who won. But, I didn't end up pulling the trigger on it. I felt like, the way we've seen so many fights going to the scorecards almost at an abnormal rate, I feel like we're going to see, the mathematics begin to equal out. I said earlier today, and I'm gonna stay true to this, even though what really wasn't the case tonight. I think we're gonna see a lot of finishes as we look at the second half of 2021. A lot of it has to do with that energy of the in-crowd situation, right? You see guys going for it. They're energized. They want the big finish. They want the big bonus. You know what I mean? In front of the live crowd. I really do think that plays into it. And I'm pretty sure the statistics would back me on it. We've had a couple events where we've had crowds, and I think we saw an uptick in finishes in those cards. So, but this fight, as far as a whole, went essentially kind of how I figured it would. Edmen Shahbazyan has a very, very strong round one. I mean, you kind of got to shake your head and wonder why Jack Hermansson would entertain Edmen Shahbazyan on the feet for an entire first round when the Shahbazyan kid's kind of for when you look at the numbers, when we look at what the sample size we have, he's kind of a first rounder bust type guy. And sure enough, that's exactly how it plays out tonight. Edmen Shahbazyan wins a clear cut round one, just touching up Hermansson, hurting him bad, big power, putting damage on him. Sure enough, Hermansson begins to turn the tables in round two, uses that offensive wrestling, uses that grappling advantage, takes the fight to his strengths, puts the fight on his path to victory, right? Takes Edmen Shahbazyan out of his game entirely when it hits the mat. Even at the end of the second round, though, I will say, we saw Shahbazyan reverse position and actually landing some very good ground and pound. Made things very interesting going into the third round. But honestly, man, the third round, pretty much an absolute wipeout. Hermansson just pours it on Shahbazyan. 10-8 round, absolutely. All three judges agreed. And if there was maybe 15, 30 seconds more in that round, potentially even a finish, I think, for Hermansson. He was just absolutely destroying Shahbazyan at this point. Happy to cash this one, Al. You said you had the over. Did you have anything, or you had the under? Did you have anything else on this one?
Yeah, I had Jack Hermansson tonight as well, which one of the only ones that came in. And, it's pretty funny. Both these fighters go from main event status to opening the main card of, ESPN Plus fight night. I thought that was kind of weird because both these guys, I just thought it was weird for both these guys to be opening this card. Sometimes it's like the curtain jerker where they put, one of the best fights to start it. Cause like when you're flipping through at the top of the hour, that's when you'll have the highest casual audience of people that are just like, oh, what's on ESPN Plus, So, but beyond that, I guess these two guys that were supposed to be on last week's card on UFC 262.
Yep.
And then that also reminds me, you just mentioned it. So just to go back to what we were talking about with the totals, it's interesting. So tonight the over went 8-4. Mm-hmm. But if we go last week, the under went 7-5. And then at UFC Vegas 26, the over cashed more. And then UFC Vegas 25, the over cashed more. But then UFC 261, again in front of a crowd, the under went 9-4. So you're bang on.
Take note, people. Take note.
I'm going to look.
Me and my man Al, we got this figured out, baby.
Yeah, I'm going to look at this because I could probably go back in the results that we've done through the past since the start of the year, really, and we could probably split that up and find out, the events that have had the crowd versus the events that haven't. Because you're exactly right, and to be honest, that's a pretty sharp edge because it's almost like a home and road type situation where I don't think the UFC is going to be moving from the Apex anytime soon for these fight nights. They're going to be moving, to do these pay-per-views.
Right.
But as far as the fight night goes, I think they're going to keep it at the Apex. And if that's the case, then that's something that we should consider in our handicapping, and that's something that I should have freaking considered in my handicapping because, this Hermansson, he got pieced up in that first round. It didn't look good at all. He looked gun shy. And then, he finally realized that his only way to win the fight was by grappling. And, he had some chances there multiple times in that. I think it was in the second round with that ground and pound, but he seemed to be a little bit gassed. And then, like you said, Shahbazyan was able to reverse position there. He showed his skill on the ground for a little bit, but Hermansson was making the case that, slowly he was edging him out. And most of the third round, he was on top of him. That was like the 10-8. And I had Hermansson on the money line. And, one of the themes of this show is just how I always say, like, as soon as the bell rang, I knew I was going to lose. That's how it felt with the Hermansson ticket at the start of this fight. And he turned it around. It was Jack Hermansson's night because, he won a decent decision. And now, so I guess minus 129 on the money line. And so he's now 9-4 in the UFC for plus 3.96 units on the money line. So about $400 you would have profit if you backed him since debuting since 2016. And then, what is it for Hermansson? He's either got to wait for the winner of the Till Brunson fight or Costa and Cannonier, but he already fought Cannonier, right? So, or Robert Whittaker. And then besides that, he's definitely up there. He definitely needs a step up. I thought that fight against Vettori, I had Hermansson in that fight. And he didn't look the same in that fight compared to how he looked tonight. He looked much better tonight. What do you think as far as where he goes going forward?
Man, I guess let me start with Shahbazyan. So Shahbazyan, I felt like this was, again, too big of a step up too soon. From a stylistic standpoint, if Derek Brunson was able to do what he did to Edmen Shahbazyan, I felt like Jack Hermansson was going to have just the equal success. And it just absolutely came down to Hermansson slinging him to the mat and using his superior grappling and ground and pound. And that's where the fight was won. Why, like I said earlier, puzzling to me why Hermansson even thought, let me go out there and give this kid the fight he wants the entire first round. Very puzzling. Yeah. But luckily, through the coaching of his corner and something clicked. I mean, maybe it was the 5 minutes of getting absolutely touched up. That you'd hope that maybe helped sink in. I got to get this fight to the mat. And really, he fought for a ways to get some of these takedowns, but it's not like we saw him working for a minute or committing a crazy amount of energy. When he finally found his spot, he got it to the mat and was fairly successful. But Shahbazyan needs to get in here. Number one, if I'm his management, let's play manager here for a moment. If I'm Edmen Shahbazyan's manager, the next fight I'm looking for is a guy who is predominantly a striker only. We don't need to worry about a fight getting drugged down to the mat in the second and third round. I'm looking for a guy that's chinny, a guy that's lost a lot of fights early on. You got to get this young kid, 23 years old, back on track. Okay, get him a warm body in there that he's going to KO. Then we take a step up. You got to build it up, right? And dropping this kid in the deep end of the pool with Derek Brunson, a top 15 guy, and now Jack Hermansson, another top 15 guy, is not the look. Okay, this kid's got a long ways to go, and this is not the way to do it. Now you're talking about a kid that's probably going to be gun shy. The dude doesn't want to overcommit. One thing we didn't see tonight, Shahbazyan throwing a lot of kicks. Why? Kicks can be caught. Kicks are easy to get a takedown. That's some of his best weapons. So we're already, I think, looking at a guy who's got a little bit gun shy, wanted to rely too much on his hands, and now coming off two big losses where he took tremendous amounts of damage in both. I mean, caps off tonight with a 10-8 round, just absolutely facially destroyed. Big step down now, big step down for Shahbazyan. They, like I said, somebody that we know the kid can get a win against. And where does Hermansson go? He's right back in the mix, man. Right back in the mix. The loss to Vettori, but let's think about that. Vettori's now fighting for the title. I mean, Hermansson's 2 or 3 fights away, tops probably, from looking at another contenders fight. So let's get him in there. I no names immediately stick out to me. Here's a good one, although honestly, Brunson probably deserves better. Brunson, I was just talking about him. That could be a decent matchup, but like I said, Brunson, man, he's on a pretty good run. He probably deserves someone higher up the totem pole. But I like what we saw from Hermansson, man. He goes in there, fights the fight he needs to fight finally in round 2 and 3, and gets the win. So what do you think, Al? Should we move on here?